In this video, I want to show you the difference between the traditional overlay mosaic crochet and the endless overlay mosaic crochet, which I am using in several of my designs. They say a picture says more than 1,000 words, so here is a swatch that I worked on while I was designing my four-leaf clover Lucky Shamrock pullover sweater, and which is, by the way, here. This is the sweater. So the issue is, traditionally you work in one direction. If you're right-handed, you go from right to left. If you're left-handed, you go the other way. But you take every row, color A, color B, in the same direction, and you cut your yarn at the end. So you end up with a gazillion ends, tails on both sides, which is not a big problem. I mean, you know, especially for blankets, you can tie them up into a nice fringe, or you can create an envelope border and just enclose them. However, I am focusing on designing garments, and when you have pieces to assemble together for a garment, or let's say you want to design a cardigan. Let me show you one of the ones that I've designed, like this one. It's called the Endless Fall cardigan. This is the overlay mosaic yoke, and this would be the edge. So having, I don't know, depending on size, 35 to 45 rows with two ends, that's like up to the 90 ends to deal with, that's an issue. Plus, you can't really use an envelope border when you want to put buttonholes and things like that. So I came up with a different way of doing overlay mosaic crochet, and this is another swatch, gauge swatch, that I worked up, and this is actually kind of a practice project for the Endless Fall cardigan. And let me show you the ends. There is two here. These are the starting tails, and there is 1, 2, so 4 on the entire swatch, because you know, I didn't need to cut the yarn. So how is this possible? No, I am not carrying the yarn. I am actually working on both sides of the fabric. So the basic idea is, let me put this aside. The basic idea is that you're still working with color A, color B, color A, color B, alternating. And you're still using the same stitches, single crochet and drop down mosaic double crochet. But the trick is that you take color A from one side to the other, then you take color B from one side to the other without cutting the yarn. You just put them on holders, and then you turn the work, and then you work color A on the wrong side, and then color B on the wrong side, and then you continue doing this. So you turning your work at every second row, working your stitches a little bit differently from the wrong side. They look the same, pretty much the same as the traditional one. I mean, if you look closely, you can see the difference, because the one directional thing, your stitches are facing the same way, they're leaning the same way, which, by the way, leads to slight drift and leaning, which is actually solved with this problem, because you're going back and forth. You don't get that drift, that leaning of the stitches. But if you work with a large, bold design, you really have to get into like really close to see the difference between this method and this method. And to me, not having to deal with literally hundreds of yarn tails, it actually worth it. So let's talk about how this is actually done in more detail. Let me show you the back of this. And actually, this is the reason I'm making this video, because there are a couple of other videos out there showing this endless overlay mosaic technique, but none of them show it the way, none of them do it the way I do it in my patterns, and that is how I do the border thing. I am using one double crochet stitch on either side, and it's with color A. And I do this because this way color B does not come into it. Like with the traditional single crochet alternating border stitch, you getting this little dotted edge, which is fine, you know, for blankets and stuff. But again, if I want to put on, let's say, a button band, I really don't think that, you know, those little interference with color B would work well. So that's why I am doing this. And that means with the color B, I'm trying to show you close up. The color B is actually stubbed one stitch before the end. Starts and stops one stitch before the end. So that border stitch is maintained entirely with color A. So your stitch counts for color A are going to be 2 more than for color B. That's one difference between this method and the traditional one. Another thing that comes from the fact that we are going back and forth is that if you have a chart, if you're working from a chart, so let's see, this is the chart that I made for this little practice gauge swatch, and this is a right-handed one. I also supply left-handed charts in my patterns as well. So what you have to do is you're working 2 rows on the right side, and those are marked with a little R, like right side, and it's green. So you're working these 2 rows this way. But then when you flip your work and you work on the wrong side, then you need to read the chart backwards. So I am marking those rows that you need to work on the wrong side with a W for wrong. They are still color A and B. And there is this little arrow that shows you that you need to read them this way. And I've been working on this one, so I kind of put check marks on the rows that I have already done. This is this little piece. It's done like up here. Okay, that's the back side of it. All right. So the wrong side looks very similar, pretty much the same as a traditional piece, because we are not doing anything different on the wrong side. We are just making the stitches kind of from the wrong side into the right side. I have a separate video showing actually how to do the stitches. It's in the same playlist on YouTube, so you should check that out. This video is focusing on the overall idea and how you can apply this to basically any pattern that you have, and then particularly how to use it with my patterns. So as I said, I supply right-handed charts and left-handed charts. And the idea is that if you are left-handed, you're working the right side rows this way from left to right. And then when you turn your piece, you're working the wrong side rows this way. It takes a little bit of getting used to that you need to change your reading direction when you're working with charts. But I'm hoping that all these signage, these indicators here, you know, wrong side arrow, right side arrow, plus the fact that I indicate the colors on the end where you need to start, would help you guys to keep things straight and be able to follow where you are and what you are doing. Okay, so these are the charts. And as to written directions, of course, I supply written directions in my patterns too. The thing is, for the written directions, you don't need to read any of them backwards. So the written directions are written in a way that you can just read with your normal, you know, reading. You just stitching them on the other side. Okay. So, and also it doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left-handed. The charts and the instructions are made in a way that the instructions work for both hands. You just need to use a different chart if you're referring to charts. Now, all of the signs are explained up here. So row number, whether you're working on the right side or the wrong side, and which color, color A, color B. Color B is always shaded. And well, I also have a little froggy here to show you in a more visually, you know, up to your face kind of way, whether you are on the front side, the right side, or on the wrong side. So we're switching every pair of row, you know, A, B on the right side, A, B on the wrong side, so on and so forth. And so you just read the directions for the first few rows for the foundation row, and for the first few rows I provide a detailed explanation of how to work with the border stitches. I actually call it the border stitch procedure and the skip border stitch procedure, because I've kind of figured a way with stitch markers, blues for the border stitch and yellow for yarn holders, to maintain that border stitch and reduce the possibility of mistakes of, like, you know, working into the border stitch where you're not supposed to, or skipping it when you're not supposed to skip it. The stitch markers will help kind of establish that routine, that process to work with this new technique. So I know it might be ridiculous and cumbersome to follow all these. Okay, take out the stitch, put it on the holder, whatever, put it on your hook, etc., etc. But you know, you are going to be working like on a cardigan like this, hundreds of stitches in a row, and you only have to do it at the end. And trust me, that little extra few seconds to do the stitches on the markers and etc., it worth it. It worth it, because otherwise, you know, Mr. Frog is going to visit and you might be frogging, which we don't like. So basically that's the idea, and I encourage you to try this out. If you are getting my Endless Fall pattern, cardigan pattern, it includes an entire project description for, oops, I kicked the camera, for this little patch. I call it a practice swatch. And that's another thing, is that this would serve very well as a gauge swatch, because for garments, gauge is very important. And you need to do a mosaic, overlay mosaic swatch to get the correct gauge. Otherwise, your sizing is gonna be off. So yeah, that's it for this video, and I hope it is helpful and informational in terms of what to expect with this endless overlay mosaic technique, and what to expect in my patterns that were developed specifically for this technique.